Henrietta Fore, the head of the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, says no effort should be spared to keep children in school as the coronavirus pandemic continues into a second year. Her statement follows a UNICEF report released last November entitled COVID-19, a catastrophe for children in sub-Saharan Africa. The report found that prolonged school closures due to the COVID-19 pandemic prevented 250 million children from learning. As a result of students across Africa not attending school, several problems have arisen: higher rate of teenage pregnancy, malnutrition, depression, and permanent school dropouts. Further, students' ability to read, write, and do basic maths is also interrupted by the closures, affecting students' need to meet the 21st century needs. Hello, I'm Ndimyake, Mwakalyelye, and welcome to Our Voices. I'm one of your new co-hosts for the program. On today's episode, we'll take a close look at the challenges surrounding the reopening of schools in Africa amid a pandemic as a second wave looms. Is it too soon or is it too late to return to schools? Despite COVID-19 lockdowns, schools are reopening in many African countries. But with the virus continuing to spread due to limited access to proper safety measures and testing, the decision to reopen remains problematic. On January 18th, Nigerian authorities reopened schools across the country despite a jump in confirmed cases of COVID-19. While millions of students are excited to be back in the classroom, health authorities are urging caution. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
Linguistics student Esther Ajayi had just started her freshman year when COVID-19 hit last year and closed her Abuja school for months. Nigerian authorities allowed schools to reopen this week despite a rise in the number of coronavirus cases.
I feel happy resuming back to school because, to be sincere, it was boring staying at home. Me resuming back to school today, I have the opportunity to meet some of my friends again.
Besides COVID-19, unresolved payment disputes between Nigerian authorities and teachers also delayed school resumption last year, but both parties reached an agreement in December. But not everyone is pleased about the schools reopening. Nigerian health unions say conditions are still too dangerous.
Then you are risking those kids, you're risking the teachers, you're risking the families, and at the end of the day, who are going to suffer? It's we, the health care providers. We are going to suffer. We have more work on our hands.
Many Abuja schools recorded low attendance days after Nigeria reported its highest daily number of coronavirus infections, over 1,800 cases. School authorities are operating shorter hours and using social media platforms to send lesson notes to students. Every school is expected to create its own student-led COVID-19 task force and monitor students' compliance with measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Muhammad Buhari is the student union president at Zuba College of Education in Abuja.
So they will be in charge to enforce the law of COVID-19 protocol in every school. They will be the one going around to see how the students are doing in the campuses, because staying at home is doing us more harm.
While schools are staying open for now, authorities say they will monitor COVID-19 cases in coming weeks to see if they need to reconsider. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja.
Thanks, Timothy. Now, before schools reopened, the World Health Organization, WHO, and UNICEF recommended a wide range of hygiene and disinfection measures, including access to basic water supply, regular hand washing, daily disinfection, and cleaning of surfaces, sanitation and waste management facilities. Angola is taking these recommendations seriously and earlier this month reopened primary schools after an 11-month break to curb the spread of the new coronavirus. Blanche Sanu has the story.
Angolan authorities in Mayanga, in the Luanda province, reopened primary schools after an 11-month closure to curb the spread of COVID-19. School workers implemented preventative measures against the virus, but also asked for continued support from parents and guardians in the education process.
We are very happy that the children are going back to school now because they stayed a long time inside their houses and were getting bored. I'm very pleased with the measures the school has implemented.
Schools will continue to reinforce COVID-19 guidelines, including social distancing measures, mandatory use of masks, and temperature checks.
We have created prevention procedures. The classrooms will have social distancing. We have added space between desks. The students will have to adapt to this new reality. It will be difficult, but everybody is ready, getting adapted to a new dynamic of educating our children.
Dar uma nova dinâmica para o nosso ensino e aprendizagem das nossas crianças.
Todos nós ficamos em casa por causa da pandemia. Vocês também. Uma folha.
Until the end of the current school year in July, more than 6 million primary school students are expected to return to class in Angola. Over half of them will enter the education system for the first time.
While the pandemic has disrupted education worldwide, the crisis is more acute in many African countries, where lack of electricity and the high cost of internet makes distance learning challenging. In Uganda, COVID-19 has created a new normal for school children, learning by video applications and broadcast channels. Though many embrace the change, not all families are able to afford paying for data or even electricity for the television, as Halima Athumani reports from Mukono in Uganda.
14-year-old Ugandan Musa Sewanyana has mastered the art of bricklaying. He should be in high school, laying the foundation of his education. But since Uganda closed schools in March to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus, Sewanyana has few options.
During the school break, I'm still reading my books. If we get money, we switch the TV on and follow the teachings. But I also do odd jobs, so I don't spend the whole day at home.
Unlike families who are financially able to study online, Sewanyanas cannot always afford the power needed to watch lessons on state TV or the $3 per day subscription. His mother, Naiga Rashida, says the past 5 months have been difficult with her 3 children at home.
I don't have electricity. I had even bought them a new television set, knowing they would use it to study. But there are times when even the solar battery doesn't charge and the television goes off.
Uganda vowed to buy televisions and radios for poor communities with school children, but has yet to act. A $150 million July World Bank grant is expected to soon help provide learning materials for students nationwide. But some Ugandan education authorities say the damage is already done, including from school properties that were sold off or sitting vacant.
The chairs, the walls, some of them were eaten by ants. So by the time we reopen schools, we may need now to replenish, to buy another set of furniture. And that again goes with it. But that said, the loss of jobs for our teachers and losing property, but even losing our learners. We are worried the sizable percentage may not come back to school.
Education charity groups like Uwezo, which means capability in Kiswahili, says COVID-19 has caused both a health and education crisis. When schools eventually reopen, says Uwezo Executive Director Mary Goreti Nakavugo, children will have to make up for lost time.
The starting point would be to try and give a simple assessment to understand the level at which each of these kids is. Otherwise, if you take them as a whole, many of them are going to be left behind. And the ones who are going to be left behind are mainly the ones in the low-income families.
Meanwhile, Uganda's Ministry of Education is planning a campaign aimed at parents to encourage homeschooling. Halima Athumani for VOA News, Kampala.
It's time for a short break. When we come back, we'll introduce you to teachers who are caught in the middle of the school reopening debate. Should they go back to work during the pandemic and potentially put themselves at higher risk of contracting the virus? Stay tuned.
We're bringing women's voices to the conversation, and more than that, we're building a community of inclusion and empowerment.
Here in Kinshasa, campaigns to raise awareness against the spread of coronavirus are common, but getting that information to people who have no access to water, electricity, or money can be a challenge.
We are here at Kalerwe Market, Uganda, Kampala, where in this whole market, women are crying out for their situations to change.
For women, it will be better for us.
I think a big thing for me is just being able to say that when these protests are happening, does it turn around into policy?
Our kids are raped every single day.
This movement got the government to listen. It really was powerful because it showed what is possible when men and women band together and say enough is enough.
It's not necessary anymore to climb on a car. I can be in any place to cheer with the people.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. With half of Africa's population under the age of 18, teachers are in a tough spot. Many of them have to fight to stay safe or to keep their jobs during the pandemic. Schools in Mali reopened on January 25th after several failed attempts linked to strikes and COVID-19. Now the education sector intends to catch up while also raising awareness against coronavirus. Mokta Barry has more.
Monday, January 25th marked the start of the school year 2021 in Mali. The school's reopenings have been postponed several times, and the students have missed the first quarter of their academic school year. The education institutions are aware of the delay's challenges.
Usually we have a 9-month school year. This year is peculiar because the school year started on January 5th. So from January to June, July schools were open for 6-7 months instead of 9. But it's okay, we'll try to meet the challenges. Last year was disrupted, but this year there were no disruptions and everything that we requested has been granted, so I see no reason why we can't rise to the challenge and complete the academic program in 6 to 7 months.
After several months of absence, the students say they are delighted to be back to school.
We had nothing to do at home that was fun. We're really happy to get back to school. The precautionary message given to us on the coronavirus is to wear masks, wash our hands often with soap, and to respect social distancing between us, so we can protect ourselves from the virus.
The return to school in the midst of a global pandemic is risky, despite the safety measures implemented by the authorities, like wearing the mask, hand-washing devices, and special lessons on COVID-19 prevention.
We started the lessons on the first day of school. We gave masks to the kids so they could wear them. We told them to wear them every time they come to school. Hopefully, the children will pass the message on to their parents, and it will help us better fight the disease.
While the main reason for the late start of this school year was the COVID-19 pandemic, last year was impacted by the teachers' strike, a strike that remains a sword of Damocles over the students and the government.
Zimbabwe's back-to-school program is failing to take off, with most teachers refusing to return to school. Teachers want a 500% salary increase to live comfortably and say authorities must provide adequate personal protective equipment during the pandemic. Zimbabwean authorities say their PPE is adequate and are threatening to replace teachers who refuse to return to schools. Columbus Mavunga has that report.
Zimbabwe, like other African countries, is trying a phased reopening of schools after closing in March due to COVID-19. But many teachers like Masiwa are refusing to return to class because of low pay and unsafe sanitary conditions. He says he makes more money selling brooms than teaching.
We have got the zeal, we love the kids at school. But only if the government manages to capacitate us. We are under incapacitation situation.
Zimbabwe's teachers say they want at least $500 per month and ample personal protective equipment, PPE, against COVID-19. Zimbabwe's cash-strapped government says it has procured $6 million worth of PPEs for schools, and it says teacher salaries about $100 a month, including a $75 COVID-19 allowance, is all it can afford.
It is within this context that we are saying to the civil servants, please be realistic, exercise moderation in the manner in which you demand salary increases. We don't want salary increases that will upset the stability that we have so far realized.
Without teachers in class, Zimbabwe's school children are the ones left paying the price. Students say they only discuss lessons among themselves. Their parents worry the children won't learn enough to pass their exams.
I
just wish the government can negotiate with the teachers so that our children can learn. I want them to look after us in the future.
Zimbabwe's government has threatened to replace defined teachers like Masiwa if they don't soon return to the classrooms. Columbus Mavungab for VOA News, Harare.
Thanks, Columbus. Since July 2019, the Kenya Private School Association has been lobbying the government to help sustain their schools and teachers after authorities ordered schools to remain closed till January because of COVID-19. Kenya's Ministry of Education is supporting public schools and teachers, but many private school teachers have had to turn to other jobs to survive financially. Lenny Ruvanga has the story from Nairobi.
26-year-old Kezia Karanja goes about preparing her beauty shop for the day. Karanja and her colleague Rebecca Atuti, both private school teachers, pooled their financial resources and began this business 2 months ago at the onset of the nationwide lockdown in Kenya. The teachers, who both teach humanities, make an average of $10 in sales each day. However, Karanja says that due to the fact that both are on indefinite unpaid leave from their jobs, finding the money to keep their shop running is quite the challenge.
We don't have enough stock so that you can sell the products. You see, when you are starting a business, you should have enough stock so that you can sell to the customers. But you're having challenges that when someone comes for a certain product, you don't have because you don't have the money to have the stock.
In mid-March, the government suspended learning in all institutions in a bid to stem the spread of COVID-19. While public school teachers are still drawing their salaries, many private school teachers are not. Peter Ndoro, the chief executive officer at KPSA, wants the government to offer financial support to the private schools. Ndoro told VOA that about 1,400 teachers have lost their jobs as a result of the closure of schools. The rest are on unpaid leave.
During this period, what is it that will be happening? There will be no revenue coming in. But private schools closed because they wanted Kenya to be safe, heeding to the president's call that all schools should be closed. So what is it that needs to be done? These institutions need to be supported by the government.
With a workforce of around 300,000 teachers, private schools have requested a $7 million grant to pay salaries and offset mounting costs. Zach Kenuthia, the Education Chief Administrative Secretary, says the request is under consideration.
We can say that they want to be removed from a gridlock that is almost decimating them. It can be considered at higher levels and agreements can be made. There is no money. Taxes are not being collected as they used to. We are struggling to get income, but just something can be done so that we also save them.
For now, Karanja and thousands of other teachers drawn from private schools across the country are turning to alternative sources of income and vocations to support their families. Lenny Rovaga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Thanks, Lenny. Now we're going to take another quick break. When we return, we'll delve into how the reopening of schools has been a saving grace for girls. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. A new school is proving to be a haven for girls. Pregnant girls, teenage mothers, and their babies can now continue to get an education without being stigmatized, thanks to a private school that has opened in central Kenya. Kenya's teenage pregnancies are soaring during the COVID-19 pandemic, as schools were closed until February. Brenda Mulinya tells us more from Nairobi.
After 16-year-old Jacqueline, not her real name, got pregnant in August, like most young mothers, she almost dropped out of school until she found Serene Haven. Serene Haven School, Kenya's first private school for pregnant teenagers, teen mothers and their babies, opened its doors earlier this month.
When you're in a class with people who are the same, you're all the same, it's not hard. You're able to focus because everyone has the same challenge. So it's not hard, by the way, because you're sure your baby is fine with the match on here, and after a short while you'll be able to be with your child.
The students at Serene Haven either got pregnant or gave birth during last year's COVID-19 lockdown, when Kenya's teenage pregnancies surged by about 40%. In the school's nearest central sub-district alone, officials say the jump in teen pregnancies has been shocking.
In 2019, maybe 1 or 2 cases. But in 2020, we are talking about hundreds of cases. And you already know the reason.
Kenyan officials blame students not being in schools, which were allowed to reopen this month for the first time since March. Founder and director of Serene Haven, Liz Muriuki, says their goal is to ensure the teens get an education without stigma.
This school is filling a gap and a need that society had neglected for so long. Because when a girl gets pregnant, everybody is pointing at the girl.
Ruth Kirimi, a guardian of one of the students, says Serene Haven is also helping young mothers to recover their self-confidence.
They are picking up this child and telling them, hey, there's potential, you're good. Just this thing happened, we're giving you a second chance.
Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya was struggling to reduce teenage pregnancy. According to Save the Children's 2019 Global Childhood Report, Kenya has the third highest teen pregnancy rate in East Africa after Tanzania and Uganda. Brenda Molinya for VOA News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Brenda. We go back to West Africa, where a girls' education rights group, the Malala Fund, says the majority of Nigeria's out-of-school children during the pandemic are girls, and this has widened the gap with boys. Ifiok Etang reports from Jos in Nigeria.
This has been a daily chore of 13-year-old Joy Pam since the pandemic forced schools to close down in March. Even though schools have reopened now, she still has to continue with her chores at home, even though her classmates are back in school.
When I see them going to school, tears will start dropping out from my eyes. I wish my parents could get the money and pay my school fees to go back to school, because I want to go back to school and study.
Malala Fund, an education rights group for girls, says Nigeria has more girls who are out of school than boys, especially in the north.
Before the COVID pandemic, Nigeria had 13.2 million children out of school. Over 50% of that number are girls. Once the pandemic hit, up to way more than that, about 36 million children were out of school.
Education officials say girls face more obstacles accessing education.
Assistance should be given to the children, particularly also the girl child. We have had radio and television broadcasts. We have produced some hard copy materials which have delivered to the children at home.
According to Malala Fund research, during the lockdown, many girls faced challenges accessing distance learning options provided by the government.
Girls are in rural areas. A lot of them did not have access to television or radio because they don't have electricity. There are also cultural and social norm factors where these girls are not able to have access to data. So in a typical family, the girl may have to ask a parent or her spouse to use a smartphone where she could have accessed some of these materials. And depending on if they were granted permission, they were able to access these alternative learning options.
Girls also spend more time doing household chores during the lockdown, according to Malala Fund.
We saw from data, and data we collected directly from children with consent from their parents, that a lot of girls got more hours to do house chores, while boys got plenty hours to play. So what this also means is the girls had less hours to study and prepare for school reopening.
The Universal Basic Education Act of 2004 offers free education for every Nigerian child, from primary to junior secondary school. But Hamzat Lawal notes there are hidden fees that many poor families can't afford.
Our campaign is saying remove hidden fee, amend the Universal Basic Education Act, and ensure compulsorily that girls and boys, particularly girls, go to school and access free 12-year education.
The state's Universal Basic Education Board is calling on development partners to help fund education for children in rural communities. Ifyok Etang for VOA News, Jos, Nigeria.
Thank you, Ifyok, for that report. And that's our show for this week. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at VOA Our Voices. And our WhatsApp number is also right there on the screen. I'm Ndimyake Mwakalyelye. On behalf of my colleagues here at VOA, stay safe.